In Africa, poverty and lack of economic security have often been regarded as some of the major barriers to women's political participation. However, gender policies that promote gender mainstreaming in all government ministries and local governments now made it mandatory to have women in leadership positions, giving women a push factor into politics. It is from this view that we look into the life of Betty Kamya, whose political career speaks volumes. The only female candidate in the Ugandan presidential elections of 2011, Betty Kamya scored 52,782 votes, earning her the fifth position. Although a confessed opposition politician, Betty Kamya's objective leadership and focus on development make her one of the kind. A reason probably President Museveni appointed her a minister in his current government. But who is Betty Kamya?
A business person by training and also occupation. She's also a Christian, committed, born again, and generally nothing much. Passionate about the things I do or say or I want to do. So basically I work with my heart and my head. There's 9 of us. There were 3 girls and 6 boys. And he's amazing, my father. He was a conservative to a degree, but very liberal in some ways. My mother tells me stories. My mother is a Kenyan, Kikuyu, and against odds, his family didn't approve of him marrying a non-Muganda girl. Against odds, he went and married a non-Muganda girl, and when he brought her here, the culture was then for women not to eat chicken, but he served her chicken in front of everybody to sort of break that tradition. He said, my wife is not a Muganda, she can have chicken. So I think he was bold, and that's how he raised us.
From a good family background, she carries this as her childhood memory.
My great-grandfather, Andrea Kamya's tombstone, is at Ruharo Cathedral. That's the cathedral of Eastern Kore or Western Kore, I think it's Eastern Kore. My great-grandfather, Andrea Kamya, was the first African catechist in Ankole Kingdom. And it passed it on through the generations. So we come from a deeply religious family, or at least a church-going family. But some people on their own, they found their own personal relationship. I wasn't always saved, but I just got saved much later in life. Some of the most memorable things in my childhood is when I was bitten by a dog. I was in boarding school in Nyamitanga, and we had some dogs, stray dogs. They're not stray dogs really. They belong to the Covent sisters. And so I was lucky that they were probably not rabid. And I because I'd gone out of the dormitory, I was not supposed to, because we're not supposed to go out. But I'd gone out to the bathroom. We were supposed to stay in with our whatever, but I went out to the bathroom. And on running back, I was bitten by a dog, but I dared not tell the matron. So I went straight to bed with and then in the morning I woke up with a thigh, which I couldn't even feel or move, But I knew that I'd been bitten by a dog, and I saw it. But because, when you're young, you're so scared of breaking rules, I dared not tell the matron. Some of my most memorable days were the times we spent with our father. He used to take us out. We used to go swimming. We used to party a lot with the families. Other families were our contemporaries then. It was a fairly interesting childhood. But I did a lot of swimming in my time. I do have certificates from my school and from the university. I even won the All Africa University Games, All Africa University Swimming Competition.
A graduate of commerce, majoring degree in marketing, when does she develop the love for politics?
Well, I started my primary education in here, very near here, primary school, close to, it's just about 5 minutes away from here, this being my home where I was born. Yes, we'd walk to school, it's just five minutes from here. That's where I went, and we're talking about the 60s. And then I went to boarding school when I was a little older. Primary school, that is in Nyamitanga. And that's where I met personalities like Winnie Byanyima, like this Byanyima, like Honorable Emma Warner, like the late Honorable Bernadette Bijirwa, all those in St. Helens Primary School. After which I went to Wanyange Girls School in Makere, where I graduated in a Bachelor of Commerce degree, majoring in marketing. I think the passion for politics was always there. In my days, prefects were appointed for compliance, not defiance. I was on the defiance side, so there's no teacher who would appoint me a prefect. Later on, prefects were then elected by the students. I'm sure I would have been a popularly elected if that was my time. And as I said, I wasn't always compliant. I was more on the defiant. But in my own way, opinion leader, fellow students looked up to me for my opinion, how to respond to teachers, how to respond to unfair treatment. Students always looked to me. And so I was kind of always a student leader, but on the opposition. Kind of grown up in it. I have a opposition mentality.
The only female presidential candidate for the year 2011, Betty narrates to us her experience.
Of course, there are undertones, probably not overtones, but undertones of, yeah, she has got good ideas, but it's not yet the time for women. And somebody will say, she's angry because of something. You know, there's somebody, I will not say his name because it will be very embarrassing, but somebody, a very high personality in Uganda, who said to me, why don't you step down for PSG? Because people are saying you had a relationship and when he let you down, you're angry. I mean, they will always bring that out. You're angry because someone let you down. You're angry because you're in competition with you're fighting over it. So the gender undertones. Carol, I hope you voted for me, did you? And all of you women out there, you didn't vote for me. Well, I stood for president with a specific objective. And the objective, we had just started a party, Uganda Federal Alliance. And we thought that the best way to reach the party countrywide was on the shoulders of a presidential candidate. Because a presidential candidate goes around the country with a specific message, and the country is listening to you. Everybody is geared towards listening to presidential candidates. So I stood for president with a specific agenda, not necessarily to vie for the presidency, but to use the occasion of a presidential campaign to take around the party and our ideology of federalism and the leaders of the party around the country, which to me was achieved 100%.
A brilliant administrator, does she still harbor the dream of being president?
Actually, I don't dream to be president. I dream for this country to go where I would like it to go. And if I have to be president to support that dream, I will work towards being president. if I can find another way of doing that without becoming president, I don't really dream or die to be president. For instance, I am a confirmed and convinced federalist. And I'm working now to ensure that this country changes the governance system from the over-centralized unitary system to the power-devolving federal system. That is what I'm working for now. Easiest way to do that is through a national referendum. Now, if I can organize a national referendum for people to decide to change the governance system, and if we can do that successfully, I don't need to be president, because Uganda will be on the right course.
Betty Kamya, now Minister for the newly established Ministry for Kampala City Authority, was a former Member of Parliament for Lubaga Division in Kampala and also served as Shadow Minister for Agriculture in the 8th Parliament. With so much time devoted to politics and public life, what about her other side of life?
I'm a farmer, if you like, yes. My family, we have about several miles of land in Rakai district, in Ilyantonde, in Utambala. So we do a bit of farming. We didn't always do it, but we've taken it up very seriously. I'm also involved in the transport business, but those are businesses to put food on the table. So my passion, actually, what I enjoy doing is working with the communities, trying to uplift their well-being, talking to the communities. But the business that puts food on the table is the transport business.
Due to celebrate her 61st birthday, November 2016, Betty still carries great compliments for her looks.
I think it's very commendable because you don't see girls pulling back. You see girls coming out. I see them on TV, and I wonder. I'm always surprised how young they are. I mean, you girls and taking on management jobs and responsibilities in society, in church, in politics. I think there's something very good, in fact, better in Uganda than in many parts of the world. Of course, our tradition is for girls to tone down and boys to go up. But I think that tradition is largely being ignored by the environment, which promotes the girl child. There is a lot of talk about the girl child being promoted and gender parity. Yes. So this talk about gender parity has reached everybody. Even little girls know that you're supposed to take on your brothers. But tradition died hard. Even with all those, women who are at the forefront of pushing for gender parity, they will buy a doll for their daughter and a car for their son. The people at the forefront of fighting for gender parity, deep in their conscience, they still comply. Of course, there's a lot of abuse, but the consciousness is what we're talking about. A woman is supposed to, she knows that she can do better. But of course, there are disadvantages. You don't own land, and so if you grow your own crop, your husband can take the money. Even if you build a house on his land, it's not your house, so he can throw you out any time. Of course, there are all these baggages of history that will hold the women back. But the consciousness, I think, is fairly positive. You know, there are some women whom I admire, who are bold. Like the woman who first went to work at a petrol station. You know, people would look at a woman in overalls actually filling a car. She was not educated, she was not sensitized about gender issues, but she had it in her. There's the first woman who drove a bus. She was not educated, she did not know anything about. There's the first woman policewoman. You know, when I saw the first, everybody would turn to look at her. She stood on the street, directing traffic, and she almost caused a traffic crisis because people were looking at the woman in a police uniform directing traffic. So that is the woman whom I really admire, who has it in her. You know, the first woman at everything. Those are the women who have my admiration, and a lot of admiration.
Although an accomplished politician and administrator, raising her children and being there for them is her greatest achievement.
Well, I've raised my children, I think well. I don't. My last born is 23. Yes. Yeah, they are big. My children are between 34 and 23. And I have not had what you would say, fights with them. They have not had this phase of dreadlocks and buggy balances, and they're fairly calm and highly intelligent and focused people. So I would like to take that as my best achievement. I owe a lot to my father, because father didn't raise me as a woman. He raised me as an intelligent human being who could go to the sky if I wanted to. I think that's how my father raised us, as human beings who could reach the sky if they set their mind to it. And so I let a lot of things pass by. But I do admit that my children, they tell me they had unhappy times when I was very deeply involved in politics. Sometimes it's visitation and you can't make it. So you send someone. I mean, it's terrible. And they want to see you. It doesn't matter how much you send, but wherever I have been, I have made a mark. Whether it is in school, everybody will remember me, for good or bad. Whether it is in a club, whether it is at work, wherever I have been. I mean, whoever has been there with me will remember me. I don't know why. Somehow they remember me. But what I'm really proud of, and what I think that people will talk about me, if you say, who is Betty Kamya, they'll probably say, the Federalist. So because of I think I am consistent. That's what people say. That when Betty says something, she will be consistent until the whole world knows about it and what she stands for. And sometimes you are intimidated that it is unpopular. What you stand for is unpopular, is undoable, is difficult. They want to discourage you. But somehow I have been firm and consistent, and I end up being recognized for that.
To inspire other women, Kamya shares her motivation ideal.
I think one that always comforts me is that everything happens for a reason. Things always happen for a reason. That comforts me when the chips are down. If I get time, I just love the internet. There's so much.
Despite government of Uganda's deliberate policies for gender inclusion in all development programs, Betty Kamya believes that the struggle for women empowerment has just begun.
Women and girls out there, the strength is in yourself, inside. While you're looking for a job out there, take some time and look inside yourself. Especially in your head. That's where most jobs are. That's where your abilities are. So look inside yourself. You'll find a lot of strength. You'll find motivation. You'll find you inside yourself. And allow this you to come out. When they come out, it's amazing where they can take you.